supposed to hear a presentation from Iceland by Hafdís Eyglójonsdóttir, and he couldn't, and she couldn't do this today. So she just informed that she couldn't do so. We quickly changed the topic, and once ROADEX, one of the ROADEX research topics at the moment, what we are doing on ROADEX network research ongoing study is titled is Gravel and Forest Roads Test Methods and Performance Standards, which and we thought that okay, we will give now a sneak preview about the results about on this title, and this research is very much related on the work what we have been doing over the last few years in Finland. First of all, when we prepared the gravel road and forest road e-learning, but at the moment it is also with the Finnish Transport Infrastructure Agency gravel road project. But then we've been developing also new technologies for private roads, private gravel roads, that we have roughly 200,000 kilometers of private gravel roads, and their condition surveys. So I'll show these two latest findings and results about them. So hopefully, and I'm sorry that we had to change the title, but we couldn't do it, and we didn't want to cancel this webinar now. So let's get started. First of all, just some summary about what's going on or summary about in general on gravel roads. So in Nordic countries, basically we have two type of gravel roads, and they are called built gravel roads, that has been even designed and built over the years, and they at least to some extent follow the standards, road design standards. But then we have still a lot of what we call unbuilt gravel road that has been developed over the hundreds of years, from originally cow paths to the condition what they are at the moment, where the structures are. It's an evolution of historical structure, and you don't know exactly what's in over there. And these unbuilt gravel roads in general, they were earlier in the history built on dry subgrade, on the eskers and sandy areas with relatively good bearing capacity. But later on, they were started to build also on the wet subgrade, and in the historical gravel road classification, they've been divided to dry unbuilt gravel roads and wet subgrade as gravel roads. So this is like a rough standard classification. Then let's see. Then a little bit about problems on gravel road. What are the main problems that are really upsetting people and road users? And they can be classified based on the wavelength and type of them to three categories, main categories. First is bumps, which are mainly related to different, especially in Nordic countries, mainly related to differential frost heave, but sometimes also settlements, also like around culverts. It's a good example also. There are bumps. Then in the middle is another issue with what are called potholes, and they exist and potholes are mainly related to moisture problems, poor drainage, spring thaw problems. Also, one single uneven spot can start this dynamic loading on the axles, truck axles, or single car axle, and start to develop these potholes. But in general, when you are starting to see potholes, you very often you have some kind of drainage problem. And finally, the shortest wavelength is a washboarding. And in internationally, washboarding is divided to loose washboarding and dense washboarding, and they are slightly different. Dense washboarding is quite much is an early phase of can be an early phase of a drainage issue or and it's a dynamic loading, but dense washboarding is very much related. For instance, if your grader is driving too fast and it cannot cut, or grader blade settings is wrong, so then you are starting to develop washboarding. So it's mainly like a material related, but also um, uh, like improper use of maintenance machinery, you can develop washboarding. Then about pavement deformation problems. Bearing capacity is one of the biggest problems, so we have a permanent deformation or different type of permanent deformation problems, and they can be defined very much on this ROADEX rutting modes that were introduced by Andrew Dawson and Pauli Kolisoja in the early ROADEX phase, and we have this mode 0, which is a compaction, mode 1, which we have a deformation in the top part of the pavement structure, mode 2 is a deformation on the pavement structure subgrade interface, and then mode 3 is wearing, and I would say that in the gravel road we are seeing all of them, and very often, as in these photos, they are also combination of like in this case mode 1 and mode 2 rutting. And then one issue, especially on Nordic countries, not so much in Scotland and Ireland, we have this spring thaw weakening problems, and they can be classified in two categories. We have surface thaw weakening, which is related on and it can be defined very well with the mode 1 rutting, and that takes place when there's still frost in the deeper part of the gravel road structure, and the deformation is on the top part of the pavement structure. And then the other one is structural thaw weakening, which when you have the structural thaw weakening, in that case you don't see any more for instance snow on the road shoulders, but it's later in the spring, and then the main problem is mode 2 rutting, and we need to be able to differentiate these two ones. Then gravel and forest road structures in general. Here are a couple of gravel and forest road photos from Scotland. So they are very simple. Most of the gravel forest roads have in ROADEX area only two layers. So there's a base course or unbound layers, and then some kind of a wearing course in the top part. And very often on gravel and forest roads, they are you can see these deformation problems, and they are not even, but especially on the wheel path where the trucks are driving, so the structures are thicker, and because grader and blader are moving the material on the wheel path area, so the structures are slightly thicker due to the deformation problems. Then gravel road survey methods in Finland, what we've been lately using and developing. So at the moment, for instance, on private road surveys, in order to get funding support for private road rehabilitation, you have to have some kind of survey and design that it's design, not any more visual design is allowed. Of course, if you pay your own with your own money, all of them, but if you want to have a government support, you have to have some kind of survey and diagnostics. And at the moment, it's two methods is accepted. Is this RDSV that we've been using in ROADEX and road scanners, which is in general, you have to have a ground penetrating, or you have a ground penetrating radar with the structures and moisture analysis, then laser scanners to measure the shape of the road and cross section, how wide it is if you have rutting, ditch depth, verges, etc. 3D accelerometer is measuring then the roughness parameters and crossfall. Then normally you have a videos and GPS and IMU. The other option is that you are doing only the deflection surveys with the falling weight deflectometer, and that's the most popular at the moment. And then you get point information about deflection, and you can calculate E2 values, bearing capacities, but you can back calculate moduli values if you have, for instance, if you have a GPR data about thicknesses. So these two are now at the moment used in Finland, and in this presentation I'll mainly now show the RDSV results and a little bit about RDMC. And once you have been, here is one example, then a video of one private gravel road diagnostics, which were based on the rehabilitation design, and this is a project that actually the last week Friday was the final like end closing meeting for this rehabilitation project. So this is a brand new project where we tested this technology, and just in order to understand where, because mainly gravel road, the problem is that you don't have enough money, so you have to use it very wisely, the money, and know where you focus really on the weak section. So what we have been doing is that we are making this kind of point cloud model, which is easy to also explain to the road owners and contractors, and they can see where and which kind of problems. So here we are showing first of all point cloud of the gravel road. Then we show the rutting where you have a deformation in the road surface. Then ditch depths is here, and the idea with the ditch depth, how deep they are. If you see orange or red, or so then the ditch depths are much too shallow. If they are green, they are enough deep, and in the center line there's IRI, and basically on IRI, if you are on the blue, you have a smooth road, but if you go to the red, then you have a roughness problem. And with that we can make this type of videos that I remember, for instance, this when we showed these private road owners, which are not engineers, it is very easy for them to adapt and understand that where are the problem sections, and now when this project is over, so also like a contractor's light, so we have see the deformation problems, and very often where we have the deformation problems, so it's related to drainage or some other issues. But for instance, here at the end, you will see ditch upper side sloping route, totally ditch filled and very sheer deformation on this side. And later on, you will see quite much on the solution. So basically, based on these results, so we can tell that most of the problems could be related to the much too high ditches, filled ditches, and poor drainage. And once we know that drainage improvement is about it's about 5 times, at least 5 times cheaper per meter price compared with the adding extra aggregates on the top. So it is always number one issue that we should improve drainage before doing anything else. So here again, you start to see red, and as a consequence, you start to see also on these sections then deformations and differential frost heave. So this is how we can do the basic planning and once the benefit of GPR and then the LiDAR, that you can make cross sections, and the basic understanding, basic rule on gravel road is exactly the same as paved road, that ditch bottom should be always 20 to 30 centimeter deeper than the pavement structure, road structure. And here you see on the road structure, in one section, road structure in the red, grade line is there, and then current ditch bottom is blue, and then there's a design about new ditch bottom. And this shows that in many, especially in the section around 1900, and the ditch bottom is much higher, and when you look at the cross section also on that shape, the ditch is totally filled, and you have a very severe deformation on that place. So in that way, we can calculate from the cross sections also calculate the new cross and what should be done after the improvement. And here is an example now, before after this drainage improvement. On the left hand is 2023 three results, and the right photo is made roughly 2 weeks ago, taken 2 weeks ago, when this road section was improved. And now the moisture content, of course, it takes time to dry the pavement structure, but still the like performance prediction for the future is much longer, and we don't have any problems. Another issue, what I showed, the blaze where you had ditch filled with the water, is here, and the reason was clogged culvert and especially plastic culvert. So what in this kind of cases was that all the filled ditch material was excavated away, and we built a new culvert and made the transition wedges over there. And this is just photo is taken before the new wearing course material was added on over there. So this is a solution, and we know for sure that it works. Another new technology that we've been using, this is explained on ROADEX on paved road. We developed this moisture damage index, moisture damage analysis for New Zealand about 15 years ago. And we've been using that in the ROADEX also. And this is from eastern Finland, in Savolax area. Savolax one private road analysis, and that had very much performance problems on the road, severe spring thaw issues. And this was really nice example about the diagnostics. What we can see here is two runs of this gravel road. This is a left lane, and these 3 bars, and then lower 3 bars are from the right part of the road. And now the moisture where is when you see red, start to see red or black, then you start to see areas where your saturation degree is close to 8% or 80%, or when it starts to be black, it's more than 80%. So it's a risk for permanent deformations. And then on the bars, you see 3 bars, and they are calculated the saturation and also the moisture. So it's also like a risk for permanent deformation, but it's on 3 depth. First 25 centimeter, 25 to 50, and 50 to 75. And this MDI is a weight average of 3 of them. But in this case, it was really nice example of a case that actually the road structure was pretty okay. It was the only issue was that there were no drainage ditches were filled, but the biggest problem was that the wearing course over the years, they have been just adding wearing course and wearing course. So wearing course thickness was about 40 centimeter, 0 to 60 millimeter aggregate, and all the moisture was trapped in the in the road surface. Deeper on, it was okay, and this road section suffered very much on this surface thaw weakening, pintakelirikko in Finland, and especially on these red sections. And when we interviewed the local road users, these were surprisingly well matching with the funding. But later on this road, it changed. It changed to another type of road. So it was later built, and this was not so. So this was what we called, I told earlier, unbuilt gravel road. It was developed. So now we have only about 30 centimeter of pavement structure, very thin structure over subgrade, and no drainage at all. And this 20 centimeter material was mainly okay, but exactly under them, it was because of no drainage, so it was saturated. So we see a lot of red flags on deeper on the structures, and this was a section where every spring, late spring, they had also like structural thaw problems, and divide on the different issues. Of course, another advantage when you are doing laser scanner survey is that you can measure also the width of the road very easily, because this remission map on the gravel road, it makes like a black and white photo, aerial photo, and it is very easy to calculate the width of the road. And the benefit for that is that once you have a weak road section, it has a big tendency of widening, and you can see the sections where you have the widening problem. But also one issue when you are doing design, you have to calculate, to make a budget, you have to calculate quite accurately how wide is the and once you have a, for instance, 3.5 meter, and if you know that, okay, you have to put new base course, for instance, 15 centimeters, so yeah, you can easily calculate then how many cubic meters you need to buy, and when you are doing the rehabilitation contract, you are controlling the budget also. Then just a comparison of these gravel roads on this diagnostic. So this was a wide road relatively thick standards, thick structures except bedrock areas, but the main problem was poor quality water absorbing material in the surface. So it was very typical for surface to weakening. Once when you went further on this road, it totally changed. It's became a narrow road, very thin structures, no drainage, or if there was, it was a very poor drainage, and bearing capacity is really poor and high risk for spring thaw. So with this is and you know exactly the sections where you can so you can focus your limited funding exactly on the places where you need. Another new technology that we've been using for 3 years and testing, and that I've been already sometimes talking, but now we have new results, is the RDMC project, what we called Road Doctor Maintenance Controller System. And this is we have been developing this technique with the Central Finland ELY Center and FTIA, Finnish Transport Infrastructure Agency, and how we could use better this technology on gravel road monitoring. These systems is a mobile based user interface. First of all, cheap system, and it is installed to the vehicles of the maintenance controller, so no extra measurement cost, because maintenance controller are checking the roads regularly anyway, and this automatically turns on and collects the data. So we have 3D accelerometer for the roughness, camera to collect data, GPS for positioning, and then LiDAR for optional, especially now for dusting and deformation. And this is a real-time system, so all the results are in cloud in 2 seconds relay. And the main parameter on this survey especially is 3D accelerometer, which measures the different type of accelerations, where this vertical acceleration is the most important one, which what we for drive comfort and also for health issue. But then the other 2 important one is roll, which is warping, and pitch, which can be related on differential frost heave. And let me see. And here is just what we are now working on, proposal for the new new performance standards, measured objective performance standards in general, is that in Finland we are like using 3 classifications, class, and it slightly differs, because class 1 is the worst case. Normally class 1 is the top quality, but in Finnish gravel road standard, class 1 is the worst case, and it's extremely uneven road section. Class 2 is uneven, and class 3 is an even road. And at the moment we are having a current proposal is that the limits when you have accelerometer under the driver's seat is that the class 1 limit is if the value is higher than 70 meters per second squared, and class 2 is 14 to 17, and if it's less than 14 meters second squared, it is class 3. But in addition, there I'll show later, but there can be some frequency-based definition, especially for washboarding and smaller potholes, where it's mainly mainly that especially what's the limit from class 3 to class 2. That there could be slightly definition, but I'll come back on that on the next slide. Anyway, one issue what has been very interesting finding is seasonal changing in the roughness. We have been we know quite much that during the spring thaw it is, and the roads are always like roughest. This is from the Karstula gravel road section 2 years measurement, but now when we are in 2024, we know exactly this. We've been following the same trend every year. So roads are absolutely the roughest and worst in condition in about April, early May, late March, and then they are starting to get more even. But what has been surprised that gravel roads and also actually paved roads are most even in December and November and December, when the road surface is frozen. So, and that can be explained that big amount of roughness even on gravel road and even on forest roads can be related on the changes in the deflection under the wheel path, and that is causing the problems. But this trend is that now when we are on late October, this starts to, and when we get the first frost night and the surface start to freeze, then our roads are the smoothest. Then here is also an example about this gravel road diagnostics. It's one single gravel road where we've been measuring from spring 21 to November 21. And it has been classified what type of problem. So this number 1 on the lowest section is a section where it's a typical section with the potholes. So you start to see during the spring, though, you start to have problems already. And even though there has been several gradings, they come back very soon. Only could be a few days or at least few weeks after the grading or blading, they are back until you come to the November when it's freezing and after the fall maintenance, then it stays smooth. Then number 2, there are 3 sections. Number 2 is wearing course and maintenance, and there's a photo about that section where you see really bad washboarding, and now it's wearing course. You see quite loose type wearing course problems, and also maintenance issue. Could be some issues with the blading or grading. Number 3 is a just example where there has been washboarding, but it has been corrected with the good quality blading or grading, and it you cannot see anymore that in October. And then number 4 is the only issue where it appeared in October and November, and they could be settlements or some other unknown feature. Yeah, and it requires a special issue. But again, all these red and black sections are areas where the acceleration is more than this 14, the limit, where we called like that we are in class 2 or class 1 condition. And then about the frequency spectrum, because one issue also what we want to know is that it's not enough that we measure that it is rough, but we want to see also what is the root cause of the roughness, and we've been doing survey how you could define that also in order to know also maintenance contractor knows what should be done if it's drainage issue or if it's a grading technique or whatever. And here's an example of a good quality road section. So frequency spectrum, there are no like high amplitude in any frequencies. Maximum vertical acceleration is between 10 and 12, which is far below the limit of 14. So this is an example of a good quality road. Then we start to go on the high part of the spectrum and washboarding spectrum. And washboarding in general, we are starting to see frequencies amplitudes around 40 and 80 hertz, and they are always like good indicators of washboarding. So you start to see very high frequency. Of course, it depends how fast you drive, but they are normally driven over that is about 60 to 70 kilometers per hour. You see this frequency spectrum. Then when we go to the potholes, the frequency spectrum, we are around 10 to 20 hertz or 20 to 30 hertz. When it starts to be a really bad pothole, then you start to see also frequencies less than 5 hertz. But typical pothole frequencies are on this frequency range, and the worse the potholes is, then the amplitudes are also higher. And finally, when you go to the bump, this presentation came so fast that we didn't have time to find a good bump on a gravel road. So this is from our Pehko section, from a paved road section. But anyway, here's a frost bump on the gravel road, and on this frequency spectrum, you are always talking about less than 5 hertz frequencies. They are long pumps. Another way of defining bumps is also what we've been using is that we are using pitch deviation. So basically measuring this car difference on the angle between front and back axle of tires. And so it's like a warping in longitudinal sections. And of course, if you are driving with the 2-axle car over a pitch, so over a bump, you start to get a high deviation on the pitch. And this is and another way how we are analyzing this differential frost bump is that we see them in the springtime, but we don't see anymore them in the summertime because the frost lenses have been thrown out. So this is also indicator, but extremely good way to find out where you have a dangerous frost bumps in the roads. Then one area on gravel road monitoring is crossfall development. So all the gravel roads have a tendency of flattening, that after the grading and you are making the proper crossfall, which is normally between 2 to 5% is the ideal crossfall, which is marked here. And then the material from the road center is starting to move to the side, and this is what you can see, very typical that in early July it's been graded, and then it's slowly starting to move and getting flatter, and the last red one is measured in late August. And And if this change is very big, then we know also that there's some problem with the with the with the crossfall development, and once you have a bad crossfall, water stays in the road surface, and then you start to have especially pothole problems. Then one new idea is also a dust development, and now we cannot measure in dust if you want to have an objective measurement. We cannot measure dusting on accelerometer, but on dusting surveys we are using a LiDAR or laser scanners. And the idea in this dusting survey is that when the LiDAR is measuring the road surface, so the laser beam every now and then, if you have dust particles, this car is like a throwing car tires, or car is throwing dust particles from the loose surface. So whenever they like these yellow arrows, when they the laser beam hits the dust particle and you get the reflection from them, it means that there's a dust, and this is a simple algorithm that we are just calculating the number of dust particles that laser measures before it hits the road surface. And on these black and white photos you can see in the middle it's these black dots, and then on the right view is from the road surface, and you can, so basically we are measuring the number of these particles as a function of when we are driving. And here's an example of this survey that we have been using to develop the standard. So on the top photo is a totally good quality road wearing course with no dusting. There is no reflections from the dust. Lower photo is that you have partly and you are having about 3,000 to 4,000 measured dust particles on I think it is 10 per 10 meters. Then when we go further on, here is we are around 5,000 to 6,000 dust particle, and then the worst is where the lower photo is that it's more than 10,000 dust particles per 10 meter measured particles, and it's the worst case. And once these are presented to the map, it is what we thought it's very cool map, because it really shows the problem section in central Finland in Karstula area, where you have a dusting problem. All the blue ones are okay, and knowing, first of all, knowing how expensive is the use of dust control, and also the other issues is that it's not very friendly always to the environment, because it goes to the groundwater. So you can much better control also the section on the dusting sections, and focus your dust control exactly on these problem sections. So, and then at the end, a little bit about benefit about this, that once you are all these systems what I showed on the gravel road has been made visually on the contractor, and they are subjective measurement. This is then just one example about the benefit when we are moving from subjective visual evaluation to the measured measurement, objective survey. And here is a reference is we've been measuring them with the 4 vehicles, calculating how much we have the problem section class 2, and then red one is class 1. and as you can see that all the vehicles are within very small range. But then when you have a subjective evaluation where you yeah, and this is a little bit extreme case, it's not always this bad, but I took this. But once you have a subjective so it depends so much about the evaluators' subjective evaluations opinion and how they see, and also if you are very alert or a little bit tired, and how fast you are driving and what you have but if you are wanting to have a really like objective opinion on for instance gravel road condition, these classes, and its measured system is, I would say, much more reliable system. The other issue with very interesting result was also Pekka Haatanen, who is responsible on the maintenance control on the Karstula Äänekoski area. He did excellent work on his one thesis, studied on this, for instance, road user feedback on the acceleration. So because there's a standard feedback, you can complain where you have a problem with your cellular phone and send that. And this is from road 16917, one road, and how much feedback there are in and what spots they are. And when you are comparing, so basically the blue dots are between or the gray dots is everything above 14. Blue dots are between 14 and 16, and then red dots are above 16. So the what we call class 1, the worst case. And from that you can see that basically you start to see complaints, increasing complaints if you start to get even more than 2% over there. And once it goes higher than 6%, you are having really bad big number of feedbacks. In 14 to 16, the limit is that about 5 to 6% of the road section is then you start to have complaints. But anyway, shows quite nicely this area that roughly after 6 or 8 to 10%, if you have a road, so that seems to be like multiplying, it's exponential increase on the pissed off road users that are starting to react on that. So in that way, also quite nice match what we see on the feedback. The other issue, of course, what I already told you is this is a summary about this roughness problem root cause classification. If you have a roughness, if you have unhappy road users, so what is the reason for that? And with this frequency analysis together with the other parameters, you can also like define that most what is the main reason for these problems, or what is the main combination for these problems. Then also one issue is of course health issue, what we are not very much and doing research on that, but once, for instance, this is an example of my own car, couple of years, 21, that I drove to one road on the test section where there was a culvert problem, and the maximum vertical acceleration was measured was 70 17.7 meters per second square, which means 7.2 times G. And once you are doing like a health issue calculation, so if you are driving on this stop, so like in Wikipedia says that the typical person, so people can lose even consciousness if they are exposing higher than 5G, vertical acceleration. So basically, this can be like dangerous even to your health, and of course they can break the cars and everything else. So I would say that in the future we could have like one alarm value also, or you have to have a very serious indicators that you have to slow speed and everything else, that there's a dangerous bump ahead or whatever. But we as a road owners and everything else, so we need to have some kind of alert warning system for such places. Anyway, the final benefit what I really see is also this from Pekka Haatainen's work, when he followed about undeveloped in Äänekoski gravel roads. It's in the maintenance contract and maintenance contractor was he was able to see all the time over there, and this is on average of rough sections on summer 21 to summer 23. So in summer 21, more than 14%, 14 meters per second square, there was a 6.2%. And if you remember this area, so it was quite close to the limit of where the people really start to complain on the qualities. But once contractor knew them in 2022, and the value was 4%, and 2023 it was as low as 2.4%, and only like a couple of roads anymore on the list that see the black roads. That so they allowed and they changed their maintenance strategy. No extra money. They changed the maintenance strategy, and this is what you can see as a result. And I think this is a perfect information about what we see is the future, is that we are talking about knowledge-based management over there. So all the maintenance actions, maintenance measure is based on the measured knowledge. It's not opinions and everything else. You know what to do, where to focus, and as a result, you see much more happier road users, and much better road, even without spending more money. This is the last photo. It is, of course, when you are starting to do measurement and making like a performance standards, and you are measuring them, and so you have to have a calibration. And this is just a few weeks ago on the calibration of different vehicles for washboarding, and this is a technology or very easy but very nice system that was developed by University of Applied Science in Rovaniemi for us, and this is of 4 vehicles that are used in this maintenance control used, and so we know that the results are also calibrated, that when you are driving with different cars, they are comparable. So that was my last slide. So thanks again. It took 1 hour, but I think if there are some questions, we can quickly answer.